Tim, if I could start with you. I read every week in the Sunday Times the cabinet rifts, the plots against Theresa May. The tone, certainly since the general election, seems to be that she wasn't going to survive. The cabinet would turn against her, possibly the party would turn against her. Maybe she would decide she had had enough. What do you put the fact that she's still here, she's going off on holiday, she's still Prime Minister, doesn't seem to be any serious move against her. What do you put that down to?
Well, I think she's weak, but I think almost everybody else is even weaker, and they haven't got themselves organised, and they're fighting like rats in a sack amongst themselves, and nobody has emerged strong enough to take her on. And I think that the Conservative Party generally, collectively, has taken the view that it's better to have a bad Prime Minister than no Prime Minister. They're all worried about a general election. They think they would probably lose it. And any minister that seeks to move against her is going to end up getting punished. The most significant thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks is that the 1922 committee, the group of backbenchers who sort of the shop stewards for the people without a top job, have said to Theresa May, if you want to sack any of these recalcitrant ministers, be our guest. And they've made it very clear to the people who would like to be leader of the Conservative Party, and there are a good number of those. Some of them think, well, if we're going to have a bad Prime Minister, it might as well be me. But they've said, you're not going to have it. We're not going to put up with it.
The party may not want her to go, but is she defying parliamentary political gravity with the fact that will she be able to get any legislation through? Is she actually a PM with any power herself? And therefore, will, in the end, events plot against her rather than actually her party?
Well, they usually do, and the summer is a great opportunity for people to do a lot of thinking. There are people who hope that if she goes away walking, she'll come up with a similar dramatic decision to the one she came up with the last time she went walking, which would be, in this case, to walk away. The problem is none of the other ministers is strong enough to get rid of her, but if she were to decide to go of her own accord, I think a lot of people would welcome that.
Now, Ash, I think you're a firm supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Obviously, Labour did rather better than many people expected in the general election. Didn't win, of course, I suppose is one point worth making. What do you think about Theresa May's position now? And what is it that Mr Corbyn, if anything, can do to get himself to the position which he wants to get to, which is that he's actually number 10 and not her?
So I think to take the first question of where is Theresa May right now, I think we have a strong but unstable government, which really is the worst of both worlds.
A strong one, you think?
In the sense of that there's very little in the way of democratic oversight or accountability at the moment. So what we saw is, for instance, with the state pension age, the timescale to increase has been brought forward. There's been very little noise about that being made because, once more, our attention is focused on this kind of short-term, petty analysis of personality rather than substantive policies. And I think that's where Jeremy Corbyn comes in, because our political classes, our media classes, all banked on him having a kind of off-putting socialist Werther's original granddad kind of vibe, which would put people off. That wasn't the case. The fact is that Corbyn, McDonnell and Abbott presented a very substantive, fully costed manifesto. They kept the talk about issues, and that's what appealed to people. I think the best thing that he could do is keep doing that over the summer. I think that's how Theresa May will look weaker by the day, because she'll be off on her holidays, whereas Corbyn will be grafting. And he'll be addressing the real material needs in this country that people are concerned about.
Is there anything, though, in parliamentary terms that he can do to spark this move that he wants into number 10? There's nothing he can actually do, though, is there? Because at the moment, he hasn't got the numbers of MPs he needs to be able to move on, to be able to move into number 10.
I mean, in my view, the best thing that he can do is focus on modernising the Labour Party, making it more open, making it more democratic, and focus on his policy platform, right? Let the Tories rip each other to shreds, because they're doing a very good job of it right now. They look like an absolute shambles, to be honest with you. And I think what we've seen is that people find party infighting very unattractive. So if I was Corbyn's advisor, well, that would be, I would say, leave them to it. You do you.
Now, Polly, Sir Vince Cable, your new leader of the Liberal Democrats. What's the role for the Liberal Democrats? 12 seats, but not in coalition with anyone, doesn't want to be in coalition with anybody. Again, I ask the question, which I think maybe some people might think, how does anyone engineer anything different from Theresa May basically carrying on for as long as, Tim says, the Conservative Party wanted to?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, what Vince is doing already, I think, is being the only party in Parliament that is firmly against Brexit, you know, because Jeremy Corbyn is, of course, backing up everything that the government is doing, making a hash of these negotiations, supported and sort of cheered on by the Labour benches, or at least the leadership of them. But you're right, there's very little that anybody can do to get rid of Theresa May. They're sort of holding on to nurse for fear of finding something worse, I think a line that used to be used about Thatcher. And when the backbenchers don't want an election, which is basic, you know, as Tim was saying, what we've got at the moment, you can't get an election to happen. Remember in 2010, everybody said the coalition would fall. They said the coalition would fall over that kind of first summer. Then they said, oh, by conference, by Christmas, by Easter. For years, we were constantly told there'll be an election,
but
it'll all collapse.
But at least it was a majority, and it was a proper full coalition. This is not the same as that.
That's true, but she's got a majority. The DUP aren't going to turn against her. And, you know, as was saying in your film, there's a lot you can do, though I'd exclude mental health from the list, without legislating at all. And actually getting kind of frozen, carrying on in government for as long as they can. Nobody wants that poison chalice of having to lead the Brexit negotiations. You know, of course, the Conservatives are nervous about losing what the kind of tenuous hold-on power that they've got. But actually, the Labour Party aren't exactly convinced. Remember that Jeremy Corbyn lost a confidence vote with his backbenchers. They're not exactly convinced that they can romp to victory quickly either.
Tim, isn't the big danger for the voting public that the Parliament is there, but it's not doing any legislating? We've already seen the Conservative Party bin a lot of its manifesto, if not all of it. Basically, the focus is going to be on Brexit, not dealing with social care, not dealing possibly with mental health issues, not dealing with the problems in the economy. Isn't that the big problem? This is called a zombie parliament. That might be rather unfair to zombies. At least the zombies move forward in some way. This parliament's static.
Well, I mean, a lot of people say, you know, politics is not just about legislating, and they've got a chance to see whether the public actually buys that argument or not. It does look like chaos. I mean, when I announced on Twitter earlier that I was coming on this programme tonight to talk about the state of politics, people tweeted back at me pictures of a dumpster fire and comments like, we're in search of a paddle, but there are none. And the general view of politics and politicians at the moment is that this whole thing is going to be a shambles. The Tory party look like a total mess at the moment. I slightly disagree with Ash in terms of the Labour Party. If they bring in all this democratisation, that probably leads to deselections, and that does create a huge infight in the Labour Party as well.
Ash, do you think Theresa May will last till 2019?
Oh, God, no. I mean...
OK, fine. Why don't you think she'll last until 2019? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
But of course, if she goes, she's replaced with another Conservative. It doesn't change anything, really.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Poddy. Thank you very much, Tim.